Bingo Blitz rules.
If your bingo has ads in it,
That's not a bingo.
if it doesn't have the coolest tournaments, mini games, and the most breathtaking design,
Nope, not a bingo.
if your bingo moment makes you feel so excited that you just want to burst in joy and scream out loud, bingo! Sorry, so you're playing...
Bingo Blitz? Now that's a bingo. Go for a world of excitement with Bingo Blitz, the #1 free bingo game. Download Bingo Blitz and play for free.
Now that's a bingo.
This episode is brought to you by Skinny Pop Popcorn. Perfectly popped, endlessly delicious. Oh, so light and crunchy. Skinny Pop Original Popcorn is the snack you've been searching for. Made with just 3 simple ingredients: popcorn kernels, sunflower oil, and salt. Snacking never felt or tasted so good. Perfectly popped, endlessly delicious. Give yourself permission to snack and pick up Skinny Pop Original Popcorn today.
Let's hang out.
Let's hang out.
And let's talk about what lessons about.
Let's hang out.
And let's listen to 2 lesbians shout.
Let's hang out.
Let's hang out. Hello.
Hi.
And welcome to Let's Hang Out, a podcast where 2 lesbians talk about stuff.
This is your East Coast lesbian, Ellie Brigida.
And I am your West Coast lesbian, Lee Holmes Foster.
And this is episode 3, A Sad State of Affairs.
And we've all been there, right? Falling for a straight girl.
Oh, yeah. Too many times.
Just the worst.
Oh, this one really hits home for me, Lee.
I know it does. And so that's what we're going to try to talk about today, is talk a little bit about why this happens so often and is such a common problem for so many of us.
Yep.
And also, I think, talk a little bit at the end about maybe some good things to keep in mind, or how some of this is starting to change, but really kind of dig into why we always fall for straight girls.
So it's a real thing, right?
And why do we fall for straight girls?
I mean, and I just want to say as a disclaimer to the beginning of this episode, we know that sexuality is not so black and white. For the purpose of this episode, we're going to talk about people who self-identify as straight. Because there are a lot of them out there.
And I think that's our #1 reason why, right? Is actually most people are straight.
Yes, and it's an unfortunate thing for us because we have a much smaller dating pool because of that, right? And
sure, yeah.
Girls are pretty, right? Like, so many pretty straight girls. It's hard.
There are, but it's kind of unavoidable, right? I think when you're already dealing with a smaller population, it's certainly something that we can't ignore in terms of why this is such a common story that we hear.
Oh, yeah.
Is there's just lots of straight people out there.
And, sometimes for me, I forget that there are so many straight people out there. My college was so gay. They were everywhere.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to Wagner College. It's this tiny, tiny college on Staten Island in New York. I don't know what it was. It's a theater school. I guess like a lot of people, the creative types are a little bit more free. But even the people who were not studying creative things, there were just so many of them. We're a little lesbian clique, and I loved it.
I mean, you're telling me, Ellie. I went to Mount Holyoke College.
Yeah.
So shout out to my mojos. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people, when you're looking for colleges, if you have already come out, or if you maybe have that inkling in the back of your head, I think a lot of us look for places that are going to be accepting and going to be open. And, Mount Holyoke certainly is.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, we have a pretty healthy, lesbian population there. It's also, I mean, it's in the Pioneer Valley, which is, kind of like a gay mecca in the US.
Yeah, I think I told you this. I looked up because, of course, I wanted to find a place that had the most lesbians. And, number 2 and 3 were both in Pioneer Valley.
Yeah. No, that doesn't surprise me at all. Because, I mean, Mount Holyoke there, Smith is out there, shout out to Smithies. Top of the list of, closest to gay utopia you're going to find.
Yeah. And it was a beautiful time in gay utopia, but then we come into the real world and I get very confused.
Exactly. So, yeah, and because you're not just finding that there's a less concentrated, gay population in general in the rest of the world, but also just people who are less aware of gay culture. I mean, Mount Holyoke is still predominantly straight, but, I think there's an awareness. There's kind of that knowledge of there are gay people, there are lesbians, you know, and people who are a little more familiar with the culture and with what's going on. And it's not always the case outside of that.
And so, yeah, it's really hard to tell who is and who isn't gay, right? Or queer or anything.
That is our next reason why, I think. Why do we always fall for straight girls? It's because you don't know.
Yeah. I see a pretty girl and I go up to her and I just assume that she's a lesbian and I can hit on her, right? And that's not, you know, not the case usually.
You know, as much as I think we all have some, you know, some range of gaydar, it's not always perfect. It's not always 100%, right?
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
It's always like an investigative process, right? You're like, are her nails short? There's like so many things that go into it.
Well, and that's throwing back all the way to like early L Word episodes, right? Where they're doing that with Laura, everyone's favorite soup chef, right? What shoes is she wearing? You know, you can play that game, but I think there's no definitive way to tell just from looking at someone.
Oh, yeah.
We all know that, right?
Yes.
There's not. Although I think someone's making an app now. Isn't someone making like a facial recognition, like neural network app that can tell you from a picture if you're gay or not?
Is that a thing? The gay... Okay,
I think
the gay face is sort of a thing, but I will say you don't have to be gay to have a gay face. And if you have a gay face, if you don't have a gay face, you can be gay. So it's like, what's the difference, right?
No, right. I think we're going to need to see, like, what's the batting average for this app. And also, like, how long until this app leads to, like, the downfall of humanity. I mean, you know.
You know, any
robots
app.
are all going to take over the world anyways.
So it's fine.
The other problem with a face scan app is, like, there's nothing subtle about trying to hit on someone and being like, can I just hold my phone in your face for things?
Sorry, you have a really cute face. Can I scan it?
Yeah, I'm just gonna... Nothing weird is happening here. Like,
look away. Oh, don't look away. Sorry, I need to get your face.
Hey, can I buy you a drink and take a close-up of your face?
Yeah, that would be a lot easier, but I think you wouldn't get as many girls, you know? You would know they were gay, but they would be like, I don't want to talk to you.
Totally normal, like total normal flirting, you know, just need a quick pic of your face.
I don't know, I do that all the time, so.
Yeah. So, okay, so what do we have so far? We have lots of people are straight, and you don't always know who is or isn't.
Yep.
And I think the next one, because it's something that we kind of talked about in episode 1, and I think it also comes into play here, is that coming out, right? So someone who has identified as straight up until now, realizing their sexuality, it is the most common story that we see in the media today.
Yep. Like lesbians hitting on other lesbians, where we just don't really see that, right? It's like the straight girl who falls in love with another woman, and usually that other woman is gay and then discovers her sexuality. So we think, you know, that girl may be straight now, but in the movies, she finds me and she falls in love with me, right? Even my favorite movie, Imagine Me and You. And of course, that's why it's my favorite movie, because this woman, she literally falls in love at her wedding to a man.
At her wedding to a man. Her straight wedding.
Her straight wedding. And she falls in love with the girl. So clearly, that's the way to go.
Makes eye contact.
Just start crashing all the weddings and wait till a girl who's on the altar with the love of her life realizes you are the love of her life instead.
Editor's note, please do not go crash straight weddings. We do not condone this. But I think it's true. You know, I mean, I think we're going to be talking about Debs next episode, which is another, you know, I think a lot of those kind of classic lesbian movies, right? We tend to watch them, and we always watch them because we did come out. We focus on the coming out story from that perspective of, I thought I was straight and I realized I wasn't. And I think we ignore that in a lot of those cases, because they're pitched as rom-coms, the flip side of that story is someone who's gay fell for a straight girl.
Yep. And oh man, yeah, like I identify with Luce so much. The other day, this girl that I was talking to, who is not straight, but is more straight than I am, she literally compared me to Luce. And she was like,
Imagine Me and You.
Yes, and Imagine Me and You. And I was like, oh, I'm so happy. Like, I'm Luce. This is like my dream. But do you really want to be Luce? Like, Luce had to deal with so much emotional turmoil. Ugh.
It was a lot.
It was so much.
It's not such a straightforward story, I think, in real life. I mean, obviously, you're looking at this romantic, we're making a feature film and it's going to be great. But yeah, I mean, it is one of those things where your initial gut reaction is like loose. And also, I mean, who doesn't want to be compared to Lena Headey, first of all? But, there is something that's hiding under there a little bit. And it's not just movies, right? I mean, I think that's true for most TV shows, I think, that have lesbians or queer female characters on them.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty prevalent that it's a coming out story.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure, we could name them all right now.
Just like rapid fire, like a coming out TV story?
Yeah, let's just see how many we got.
Okay, I'll start. Buffy.
South of Nowhere.
Glee.
The Bold Type.
Pretty Little Liars.
Grey's Anatomy.
Supergirl.
And, the new fave, Winona Earp.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to stop us on Winona. I mean, we could do this endlessly, I think, but every conversation should just about start and end with Winona Earp as far as I'm concerned these days. But I think that's a good example, right? That it's like all of these TV shows, and I think TV shows that a lot of us, know or watch or hear about, the main queer story is someone who was straight or thought they were straight or was trying to be straight, kind of realizing,
so hard.
hey, yeah, some of them really were, right? But kind of realizing it's, hold on a second, something else is happening. And I actually want to take a quick hot second and sidebar this real quick, because I have some questions about that being the top story that we see. I mean, besides, I know we're talking right now about, does this lead to falling for straight girls and things like that? I have some thoughts about, is this more problematic than that? Is the fact that we see so many coming out stories, does this create expectations for lesbians, and especially younger lesbians, our little gabies?
Oh, yeah.
Who are starting to date? Does this create an idea in their head? Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's definitely this idea like, oh, if I like someone and they are straight, eventually they won't be straight anymore.
Yeah. Right? And you know what my number one example for this is, because you've heard me talk about this before. Oh, yes, I've heard you talk about it. Yes. Yeah. So I'm going to pre-apologize. I'm so sorry, Emerson Chippers. We're going to get into it a little bit because I do have some feelings about Emerson.
I don't watch Pretty Little Liars. So Can you give me just a quick overview of what is Emerson?
So Emerson is the name. It's a shipper name for Emily and Allison, who are the kind of end game lesbian couple on the show. And Emily, played by Shay Mitchell,
I do
has
know
her
Shay
own
Mitchell.
coming out story. Well, everyone knows Shay Mitchell. So she has her own coming out story when she's in high school, realizing that she's into girls, realizing that she had feelings for Allison. That maybe went beyond just wanting to be best friends, Mm-hmm. And over the course of the show, because, I'm going to gloss over a lot of the plot. I mean, Allison, she was dead. She's not dead.
Spoiler
she's back.
alert.
Spoiler alert. They end up getting together and have kids together, get engaged.
Wow.
And I think there's a lot of things about their storyline that are cute and that are great. But I have a lot of hesitation around the fact that when we see early days of them in flashbacks of in high school, how Allison responded to the fact that Emily was kind of into her, it was not positive at all.
Yeah.
And I think for me it's hard because I worry so much. I've seen how many younger lesbians and bisexual girls kind of have latched onto that storyline. And part of me worries because how many of them have latched onto it just because they want that story. They want the person that they're into to end up with them.
Well, of course. I mean, obviously, we all, if you have feelings for someone, you want them to have feelings for you back. That's just,
yes,
that's clear.
Exactly. But is it a good thing to tell younger lesbians, hey, that girl that you're into who maybe treats you like dirt about it right now, just hang out for 10 years and she'll totally love you back.
Yeah, that's definitely problematic. I mean, I think it's problematic in all media, though.
Yeah.
Because there is that thread of unrequited love or the the guy treats you like crap, but eventually he'll change his mind, or the girl treats you poorly as well. And
Sure.
there's this idea of the exception to the rule, right? And for Emerson, yes.
Yeah.
So Allison, right? Emily was her exception to the rule. And a lot of people love that storyline. But when you think about that storyline, it is so problematic, right? Have you ever seen the movie He's Not That Into You?
I have not.
Okay, so the whole point of the movie and the point of this book, He's Just Not That Into You, is that, you know, you're not the exception to the rule. Like, you will think you're going to be the exception to the rule, but, like, if they're treating you poorly, if they're not asking you out, if they're not showing that they're interested in you, they're not into you, right? There's no exceptions. That's just
If
how
it
it
walks
is.
like a duck and it quacks like a duck,
Yeah,
it is not
right?
into you.
But then you go to the end of the movie, and the whole point of the movie, the two main characters, she ends up being the exception to his rule, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the whole point of the book. In the movie, you're not the exception, but we still keep feeding that idea.
Yeah. Because I think from a film perspective, it seems so romantic, you know, that I'm just gonna throw everything else aside and love wins the day. But from a, you know, healthy, functional relationship perspective, it doesn't, you know, queer women are not the only people who are being fed problematic things from the media. Absolutely not. I think there's so many examples of toxic relationships and unhealthy relationships all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
It's great to see coming out stories. You know, I think it's really important. I think it's important for a lot of those young lesbians. But yeah, you know, what does it do when you start creating these expectations about what is the end result going to be? How does this play out in the long run? As much as I can sound harsh about Emerson sometimes, I know. I think it's really just it's worry. You know, I worry for our little baby gays that we love so much.
Little impressionable gays. Oh,
Yes.
I do love them.
They're just, and you want to just take them under your wing, you know, and tell them that it's going to be okay, and you don't have to hang around waiting for the first girl you fell for 10 years until she just finally comes around.
Pretty reasonable thing to say.
Ellie, what should I watch now that Winona Earp ended?
Well, if you like Winona Earp, you should definitely check out Riley Parra on Tello. It's a little bit Winona Earp, a little bit Buffy, and a little bit Rosalia Niles, but actually gay.
Oh my god, I love the Riley Parra book, so of course I'm watching it. Plus, Tello's all about making content for lesbians, so lesbians are front and center.
And you know we are all about lesbians, front and center. Ugh. And did you know they're the first lesbian network to receive an Emmy nomination? Which is huge.
Such a big deal. We were so excited to buy our subscription because we know all those fees are just going to go straight into making more lesbian content, which I think is something we all want.
More lesbians. Absolutely. So be sure to check out Tello and subscribe to watch great shows like Riley Parra and so many others. But let's talk about the baby gays for a minute.
Okay.
We all were baby gays at one point, right?
Oh, so true.
We all were once a closeted straight girl, and we had to come out, right? And so it's such a revelation for us. And I think because of that, we want other people to feel this life-changing thing, right?
Yeah. So we're segueing back into why do we fall for straight girls right now? And yeah, absolutely. We've had that moment of, you know, I think for all of us, that realization like, hey, you don't have to date boys, right? And so
it's so exciting.
It is so exciting. And it's so exciting to the point that like you almost want to go like door to door ringing doorbells being like, have you heard the good news?
Yes.
Like, you can be gay.
You can be gay too. We'll teach you.
Here's a book.
Love it.
Here's your pamphlet and your toaster. And just so you know, you don't have to date boys, right?
You don't have to do this to yourself.
But it's so true. I mean, I think, you know, you forget because that was such a huge thing for us, that everyone doesn't have to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, not everyone is suffering dating guys the way that we all kind of were sitting there, you know, and maybe it was fun. I mean, like, I had boyfriends in high school, and it's not like it was awful. I mean, it wasn't much of anything, you know? It was kind of like the feeling of someone being into you felt nice, you know? Like,
oh yeah, but the fireworks never happened, right? I still remember the first time that I ever kissed a girl, I was like, holy crap. Mm-hmm. This is what it's supposed to feel like. Forever, I was like, I don't know, like, yeah, the guys I dated, they're cool, but like, I don't feel anything really.
Yeah.
My sister actually said to me, do you think you're feeling what everyone else feels and you just thought it would be more? I was like, maybe that's it. And then I was like, oh, no, I know exactly what I was supposed to be feeling because I just felt it when I kissed this girl. Hey.
That is the gayest conversation ever, by the way.
Yeah.
But it's so true. And it doesn't even have to be kissing. Like, I remember the first date I went on with a girl when I was in high school. We literally went to a movie and we just held hands. And we're like holding hands in this movie theater in the dark. And like my heart was just like it just wanted to explode out of my chest. And you suddenly realized you were like, this hasn't happened with boys.
Yep.
And it's so, I mean, it's eye-opening, it just all of a sudden it makes sense. You're like, oh, I'm not broken, I'm not defective in some way. It just I wasn't doing the right thing before. It was the wrong thing.
Yeah.
But it was the wrong thing for us. It doesn't necessarily mean it was the wrong thing for everyone, And I'm going to sidebar us again. I love sidebars
yes.
Because I also want to talk about, I mean, there's a lot of, and I think we're going to have a whole separate episode about, kind of biphobia and lesbians and everything. But I wonder if that's another reason that so many lesbians like don't trust bisexual girls, right? Like in that kind of weird way.
Because for us, we never felt anything to men. So we're like, oh, but
right.
If you have feelings for a woman, therefore, yeah. But it obviously doesn't work like that. Like we know
right.
this.
Like we expect that they would have had the same realization of like, oh my God, you know how you never felt anything and now you do? Like you don't have to go back. And so to us, it's like, oh, why would you want to go back? And it's like, well, because they're not only into women. Like some people also felt stuff for the guys before and then realized they also feel something for the girls. Like it's just a different thing.
That revelation is just as exciting too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but it's a different revelation and like that's okay. Like everyone doesn't have to have the exact same story in life, like my story doesn't have to be everyone's story,
Yes, definitely. But I think that also bisexual women, there are a lot of them out there. My ex-girlfriend was bisexual and I date a lot of bisexual girls and a lot of my friends date bisexual girls. It's interesting because a lot of those girls, my friends that they're dating are the first women they've ever dated. But that doesn't mean that they have changed their whole dating history, right? And they've changed the way that they feel about men. That makes it a little bit more difficult too, right? Because just because a woman has always been with men, other people look at them and they say, that's a straight girl, quote unquote, also might necessarily not be straight. But they might also not be a lesbian, right? There's so much in between.
It's like there's a range.
Yeah. Oh,
there.
Is there a spectrum? Is that a thing that exists?
So, yeah, we're going to talk about that in a hot second.
Love it. But yeah, to go back to my friends, they said that I could use their names, so I'm going to talk about them.
Okay.
So one of my friends, Courtney, she all throughout college was a lesbian, and my friend Noelle was historically straight. And she was in a very serious relationship with a man when I met her, only dated men, and Courtney and Noelle were friends and turned into something more. And now Noelle identifies as bisexual. But, if Courtney had just said, oh, you only ever dated men, like, I'm not going to date you because of your dating history, or I'm not even going to try to do this, they're both very happy right now, and they wouldn't have gotten to that place. Yeah. So there's this tough line that you navigate where it's like, well, you don't want to say like every single girl who's ever been straight, like, don't come near me, right?
Right.
Because sometimes it does end in a really beautiful relationship with someone who had previously only been with men.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, my own life, right, is like a great example of that too. I think especially of just being willing to put your feelings out there, right? And not with the expectation that it has to mean anything, but just sure. It's funny, we talked about this when we were planning this episode is, how do you have an episode to kind of dig into falling for a straight girl and what does that say? Like, why does that keep happening? What does it reflect about our community and things like that? And me just feeling like a huge hypocrite because I'm like, well, I did too. I just, now we're married. And when I talk about that story, I think it's always really important to convey that it's not, I didn't marry a straight girl, right? Obviously my wife is not straight. She's just someone that I met before she had come out. And that's a really important distinction there. You know, I think it's important to remember that, yeah, there is, that moment can still come. I mean, whether it's something that is always going to happen, you know, the way that it kind of ends up being shown to us on TV, I think that's certainly how that does happen sometimes. I mean, we can't, you know, can't really pretend that that's not a real story. I mean, of course
it's a very real story.
So
yes.
many of us,
yes.
have experienced that.
And of course, everyone's relationship is different, you know? There's so many different identities out there. I've noticed this more and more happening, maybe just as I get older, but a lot of my friends who were, I'm just going to say historically straight. I guess that's like how you would say it. But a lot of my friends who are historically straight are now with women. And I think it's because as a society, we're a little bit more open with the fact that we have feelings for a multitude of different people, right? And we're starting to push back against labels.
Yep. We're going to jump back to that spectrum comment. Yeah, absolutely.
Which I think is just, it's so exciting. You know, there's so many different identities, so many different sexualities, and it's all on a spectrum, right? It's not so black and white.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. And as we head into Thanksgiving time, I want to start by thanking my wife, Kelsey, who has not only listened to just about every episode of this podcast for 8 seasons now, but who also is the only reason I'm able to make time to record it every week. She takes the kids, gets them dinner, and gets them ready for bed just so that Ellie and I can come on and yell about gay things into each other's faces for an hour. So here's a reminder to send some thanks to the people you're grateful for in your life, including yourself. I've been in therapy for a long time now, and one thing that's so important about therapy is how it teaches you to be more intentional. And being intentional about gratitude and how to show that to the people you appreciate is just one of the many benefits that I've gotten from therapy over the years. If you've been thinking of starting therapy, consider giving BetterHelp a try. I know how hard it can be to find time for regular therapy, and BetterHelp is designed to be flexible and convenient for your schedule. You can fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. If you want to start being more intentional about gratitude in your life, visit betterhelp.com/leshangout today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/leshangout.
Let's hang out.
For many businesses, the holiday season can be both an exciting and stressful time. With so many balls in the air, one thing you definitely want to know you can rely on is how you're selling your products. And with Shopify, you can rest easy knowing it's the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. Nobody does selling better than Shopify. And when it comes to successful brands like Aloe, Allbirds, or Skims, an often overlooked secret is all the things that go on behind the scenes that make selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, if you take a peek behind that curtain, you'll see that Shopify is what makes it all possible. Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%, so that's more happy customers and way more sales going. It's true all the time, but especially this time of year, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling, on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout we use for Realm merch with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/realm, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/realm to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/realm.
What's up, guys? It's the champ, Sean O'Malley, here to talk to you about Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to win real money while watching football. Run your game on Prize Picks.
Prize Picks will give you $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Just download the Prize Picks app and use code SPOTIFY. That's code SPOTIFY on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play a $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Must be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
You come to the New Yorker Radio Hour for conversations that go deeper with people you really want to hear from, whether it's Bruce Springsteen or Questlove or Olivia Rodrigo, Liz Cheney, or the godfather of artificial intelligence, Geoffrey Hinton, or some of my extraordinarily well-informed colleagues at The New Yorker. So join us every week on The New Yorker Radio Hour, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Right. And so that's why it gets so gray area with quote unquote straight girls. Right.
Right. But I think this is, I think this is a good transition because we've talked about, a lot of the reasons why do we think this keeps happening. And I think now we're kind of heading into like, where is this heading, or what are some kind of, good news, hopeful things that we can keep in mind. And I think that's a huge one. I think a lot of, our generation and younger generations, we're seeing a lot, whether it's sexualities, whether it's identities, of people saying, there isn't just one box that I have to exist in. It's things are not black and white. There's not, everything is not a binary, right?
Yes.
That's a real thing. And I think that is hopeful for the future, because that does also, I think, help allow people more flexibility to really find themselves in there, find what they're comfortable with, find what they want. I think that's a huge thing to kind of look forward to, to be excited about that's happening now, and to keep looking forward to as that kind of becomes more and more prevalent, more and more real,
It opens up our world, right?
Yeah, because then you don't have to just be labeled by one thing, you don't. I know we gave the disclaimer at the beginning. We're kind of generalizing into just, straight people as a blanket term, sure. But I think, also allowing for, there are straight people who still consider themselves straight and date someone of the same gender. There are lesbians who marry a dude. They might still identify how they do, and it doesn't negate that, it's just life sometimes is a little more complicated than that, and a little more, the waters are getting muddy, and I kind of love it.
Yeah. I'll swim in those muddy waters.
Just why
take
not?
a nice dip.
Because you don't need to just box everything up really simply. And it's especially, I think, when you're trying to do that to other people, to tell someone else what they are or aren't. I think that's just getting into dangerous territory.
Oh, yeah.
You don't need to do that.
I think it's so important that we're talking about how people self-identify. You should never identify another human being.
Unless it's us calling most of the world straight, in which case we just did that. So that's cool.
But they do I think they do self-identify as that.
They do. And I think that's another good thing to remember too about all of this is, I think, another, kind of hopeful item is, if nothing else, we can laugh about this. I think you kind of have to laugh about some of this, right?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, so at this moment in our broadcast, I'd like to bring you a PSA service announcement. If you or a loved one is having a problem with straight girl addiction, please go check out Straight Girls Anonymous at the Gay Women's Channel. No.
Can we have a PSA every episode? I love your
Yeah, I think that was
PSA
pretty good,
voice.
right? I could work on it. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about Straight Girls Anonymous.
So I love the Gay Women's Channel on YouTube. I go, get sucked into this gay hole whenever I start watching their videos. But they have this video called Straight Girls Anonymous, basically AA for lesbians who are addicted to straight girls.
So for you, it's
for me. I'm like, where can I find this Straight Girls Anonymous, and how do I sign up? But it's pretty funny. So I'll let the video explain itself. But if you want to check that out, we can definitely laugh about it.
And I think that's kind of the point, right? Is to say, acknowledge, sort of what we're doing here. We're acknowledging that this is a thing and it happens, and you don't have to kind of pretend that it doesn't. You can still be a little honest and say, hey, sometimes, sometimes we do this.
Sometimes,
it's not the best.
All the time, a few times.
But we know this about ourselves.
Oh, we do.
One option is, go find the stories of, even if they're fictional, other people who have done the same things, made the same mistakes. Mm-hmm. But I think the other thing, right, sort of like the flip side to that, is you can also look for stories that aren't that, right? Yes, it's the most common thing in the media, but there are also examples of shows or movies with actual established lesbians falling for other lesbians, right? Like people who are into women liking people who are also into women. What a concept.
Wow.
I know.
Well, yeah, I think that's why the L Word was so groundbreaking, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
More than one lesbian in a room?
And in the whole town, There's not just one of them?
Just one. But that's also more true to real life.
Sure, yeah.
Oh, so many of my friends are in the queer community, and it's like, I'm never just the only lesbian in the room. Like that very rarely happens to me. But yeah, and then you have Carmilla, which I love.
I mean, is a conversation complete if you don't bring up Carmilla?
No, never.
Just about not.
The whole show isn't about lesbians, but everyone just happens to be queer, right?
Right.
Or there's just a bunch of gay women hanging around. You're like, yeah, that makes sense to me.
It's never mentioned. It's not really a thing that has to be like introduced, because I've always felt that way about Riley Parra too, and I felt, you know, in the books, like it's the same thing. It's just they happen to be gay. It's not like a revelation worthy aspect of their character.
Yeah, because I mean they have been gay for a while, right? So a lot of them are older, and that's it's not their coming out story. And you even have different stories like the Fosters, you know, like those women step onto the scene and they are established as a married lesbian couple. What?
Yes.
You know?
Which we also love because we are also the Fosters, so.
Oh, so cute.
Yeah.
And I mean, Orange is the New Black, you have so many all over the spectrum in that show as well.
Yeah, no, I think finding those stories, you know, and hoping to see more of that. I think the other thing to keep in mind there is how much some of that highlights why we need more queer creators, more writers, you know, just more queer content being written by queer people. And to be fair, I mean, I know not all the content that we just covered is created by queer people, but I think, you know, looking for authentic queer stories, one of the ways that we get that is just to get more gay voices.
More gay voices.
More. Yeah, we need like a
megaphone.
We'll take a... Yes, exactly. If anyone hasn't watched Suicide Kale yet, I mean, we loved Suicide Kale because it was just so much more real. You know, I think we're used to watching couples, especially straight couples, on TV or in movies where you're watching it going, well, that has nothing to do with me, but that's fine. I mean, it's fun.
Yeah.
Still, it's, you know, it's whatever story it is. Suicide Kale, we watched and it just killed us. I mean, it was almost too real at some points, you know, how they're bickering and how they're having their little, you know, couple lunch date and things like that. I mean, it's so on point.
I watched it too, and it's actually funny because you're the married couple, but like I'm totally the girls on the other side, right? They were like, oh yeah, we've been friends for years, and like, you know, of course, then we hooked up and whatever. It's like, I'm like, oh my goodness, this could be my life.
Maybe we'll do a Les Essentials on Suicide Kale. That'd be fun.
That'd be great.
We'll do an episode on it. But I think it is. I think finding those stories, finding and supporting, you know, queer content and creators, that's definitely something that I think we can do that helps this whole situation, you know.
And I mean, in real life, right? Not on TV or in movies, we can also try to find more queer people to spend our time with, right? Which
absolutely
I'm always doing. Actually, last night went to a burlesque show at Club Cafe in Boston. Woo-hoo. And there were a lot of queer people there, which was so fun. Yeah, so it's, you know, find queer events. There's a lot of Facebook groups. Meetup actually is really good for that too. There's a bunch of very like specifically targeted queer events on there.
You mentioned Her earlier. I think that's a great one.
Yeah, Her is great, and that's basically like Tinder for lesbians, I guess. Or queer women who love women.
So if you want to stop hitting on straight girls, try
hit up Her.
Dating queer women.
Right? Yeah, what a concept.
I'm not saying we're going to completely solve the problem overnight, but I think there's certainly things that we can do for sure.
Help your community.
I had some questions, Ellie, that I wrote for you.
Oh my gosh, are we doing Q and Gay?
It is time for Q and Gay.
Q and Gay.
Q and Gay.
It's our favorite segment because honestly, the questions for each other I think are always a little repetitive from what we talked about, but we are always so excited to get feedback from you guys. So I'm going to ask Ellie these questions, and then we want to know your answers as well. Starting with question number 1. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever fallen for a straight girl?
What?
Let's pretend you and I have never met for the purpose of this question.
Okay,
you tell me.
I think I'm gonna have to say Yes, that's my answer. Just
It's a very liberal answer.
Gonna keep it vague, but yes.
There you go. I think that's fine. Next question. How gay was your college?
Oh my goodness. Like Kinsey 6.
We're gonna numerically score it. I love it. That's awesome.
Super gay.
I hadn't even thought in numbers. I'd have to come up with a number for ours.
Oh my gosh.
That's great.
12?
Okay, next question. How's your gaydar, Ellie?
Okay. I actually pride myself on my gaydar, but I don't know if I necessarily have gaydar. I just have like into me-dar. That makes sense. Like, you know.
That's a real thing, though.
I can look at a girl, and if I look into her eyes for long enough, and I take a picture of her face. No, but, you know, you can tell. I'm like, oh, that girl is into me. And sometimes they're gay, sometimes they're not. Who knows?
Ooh, you know, that I think sounds like that's like a teaser for another episode we're gonna do. I think that's good.
Oh yeah, gaydar on point.
There you go. Okay, next question. What do you prefer on TV? Coming out stories or established queers?
Okay. I love all of it, to be real. But I would prefer established queers. It just makes more sense to me. It's more real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, it'd be like a good model for you to follow.
Yeah, definitely. I think I need more positive role models. Hey, guys.
Yeah. Okay, our last question. Have you been with someone that was straight when you met them?
Yes-ish.
Ish?
Ish. Well, I've been with people. My ex-girlfriend had only dated men before she dated me. But I wouldn't say she was straight before she met me. She definitely identified as bisexual before we started dating, but I was the first girl that she ever dated.
That's fair. Yeah, I think that's ish. Yeah. Ish is a good designation.
That's all the questions?
That's it. That's all I had.
All right. Well, to our listeners, remember you can give us your own answers to this episode's Q&A questions on our Twitter at LesHangoutPod.
We definitely want to know your guys' answers. If you don't want to send them all on our Twitter publicly, you can also email us at leshangoutpod@gmail.com.
You can also find us on Instagram and Facebook at leshangoutpod.
And you can also check out our website at leshangoutpod.com.
And if you like what you're hearing and you want to hear more of us, please rate us and review us on iTunes. It really helps other people find us and helps us to keep making this podcast.
And if you want to follow us individually, the best place to find me, Lee Holmes Foster, is on Twitter at LSHFoster.
And you can find me at LEB2792 on Twitter and Instagram.
And I'm Lee.
And I'm Ellie.
And let's hang out again soon.
Let's hang out.
Buffet brawlers, glory holes gone wrong, cannibalistic castration cabins, public poopers? These are just a few of the crazy topics you'll hear covered on Excuse Me, That's Illegal, the pettiest podcast around. Whether you need a break from all that murdery true crime stuff, or just enjoy hearing hilarious stories told in a unique way, I got what you need. I'm Leroy Luna, your fearless host/chauffeur. So come hop in my minivan and let's go for a ride. I promise you probably won't be disappointed. Excuse Me, That's Illegal is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, basically everywhere you consume podcasts, with new episodes dropping on the 10th, 20th, and 30th of the month, baby!